Hi, everyone who is coming in. Welcome to our roundtable call. I'm just going to kind of ask you guys as you join just to go on mute, and any questions that you may have today, just throw them in the chat and we will kind of work through those questions as they come up. Now, I am joined today with one of my favorite people, Carrie of Gila Root, and honestly, so much. You're so cool, and we were just talking about it. So I'm really excited to speak with you today, Carrie. But for those who are kind of, coming into the call, could you just give a little bit of an intro and a little background on yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of hair salons here in San Diego, and July 14th will mark 31 years in business. So we've been doing this for just a small amount of time. I started when I was five, because 31 years just seems insane to be doing any one thing. But as everyone here, I'm sure knows, every day in a salon is like a brand new picnic you get to go to with new food. So you're like, okay, what's it going to be today? But my mom and I actually started our very first business in 1992 in 1,000 square feet. And she worked up at the front, and I was a hairdresser working in the back, and we grew our company to 3 locations. We currently have 2 locations in San Diego and about 60 employees. And we also have, in 2016, we birthed our Beauty Backbone business, which is a consulting company for employment-based salons and spas, and to help with leadership, culture, education, structure, finance, all of those things that us leaders have challenges with, and so that is my true passion. That's where I feel like I'm playing in my perfect sandbox every day when I'm working with my coaching clients and we're working through our programs and watching the growth of other owners. So that's my retirement job, if I ever have one.
No, it's amazing. You're such a powerhouse, seriously, and congratulations on so much success, which leads me kind of into what we're talking about today that I'm really excited about. Now, I've worked with you, I've worked with your staff, so I know that in salon you have such a unique and really healthy culture. And I understand that you also take very specific steps and you look at very specific things to kind of maintain that culture, which is killer. So if you could sort of summarize, what do you think is a healthy in-salon culture, and what do you look at as a business owner to really measure that and make sure that you can maintain it?
God, I mean, that is like such a layered question, right?
Yeah.
Because culture, and I talk about culture like a 7-layer cake, and every layer is a different flavor. It's like there's so many layers that make a culture in any business, whether it's in the salon industry or whether it's in any other business. So there's the leadership, there is the guidelines, like what do we follow? What's our mission? What are our values? Who are we hiring? Because then are they in alignment with our values and our mission and our goals, our future goals? And so I think that creating a strong culture starts with leadership. It always does. Whenever anything goes awry, and I hate that I have to hold myself to the same standard because things do go awry, is I have to look in the mirror and say, what is it that, I did to contribute to this disaster that I might be looking at, right? So I think we can also take pride when we do have a great culture that we're leading that culture in creating and making sure that our team knows what our mission statement is, know what our core values are. And if we're hiring our staff to align with those core values, we're going to have a higher probability of being able to maintain that standard. And when we talk about like what benchmarks or KPIs we look at to measure if we have a good culture, to me, there's many. One is just the vibe when I walk in. It's like, how does it feel? So I was in there the other day getting my hair colored, and I love being in there. I love my staff. They are high-fiving each other. They have each other's back. They're sweeping for each other. I mean, they are in it because they want to be there. And I think that when you can walk in and feel that people are genuinely happy to be there. So that's one marker. That's a feeling. And as much as I'm a feeling person, to know me, and I know Jean, Olivia, you know this too, especially Olivia, I am a fact-based producer and thinker. So I'm a feeler, but I'm also quite linear. And so we have specific benchmarks that we look at. And I think when we're looking at, hey, how is the culture? One of the biggest indicators is, what is our staff retention?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because like I could look at my retail numbers, which I do. And if they're in the gutter, what does that tell me? I mean, that would tell me that they're not engaged in doing proper consultations and really engaged with their guest, right? But which is also an indicator of people maybe not being happy, but the biggest one is my staff retention. And so we want to make sure that at least we're retaining 70% to 75% of our staff year over year.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So staff retention is a big one, but I also like what you mentioned. You said sometimes if you look at like another number, right, like retail sales, you may sort of have an idea, and so you're very proactive about preventing something that could become, which is brilliant. Yeah.
No. And so to make sure the team know what those expectations are, right? Because how can you hold anybody's feet to the fire if there's not like a company standard that you hire people to and then train them to what you want that standard to be and coach them to that standard, so it's not coming out of the blue. And I think if we're in tune enough as leaders, when maybe 1, 2, 3 people start to flail and their numbers start to drop, we have to be very proactive to get in there and find out what's going on, so it doesn't become a new company culture. Because I remind myself of this, I remind my clients of this, that culture has as much to do with every conversation you choose to have with your team, as much as it has to do with every conversation you choose to not have with your team. Yeah. So that's almost like the mic drop, right? Like every conversation we choose to not have is creating the culture that's in front of us.
Wow. Yeah. Now, these conversations that you kind of mentioned that you're having, I understand that you have them kind of with individuals and also on like a team basis. So how does that differ, like when you're speaking just to one individual that you have on staff versus like a group setting, if at all?
Well, I think that when we meet with our team one-on-one, I just always look at it as an opportunity to always deliver who we are. So I don't really speak in terms like, I want you to be here, I need you to be here. As a company, our standard is here.
Right.
And so I try to speak because it's not about me. I mean, I want to personally see them thriving and successful. And I want the company to be successful. But first and foremost, if they're not successful, the company's never going to be successful. So, so we talk a lot in who we are as a standard, how we operate as a standard, but also like, I don't know, I think like, when we're working with our team, it's so important to find out what their goals are, what their wants and needs are, where they want to be financially. Because if I'm speaking into that, it's more inspiring for them. If I can say to them, because you shared with me that your goal is $100,000 this year, and I see that you're trending to possibly close the year out at 85, let's talk about that, because for specific reasons, you told me your goal was 100. So let's talk about where we are. So, we can then go into that side of it too. And then we're speaking into really their listening and speaking into what excites them. My success excites them, but their success excites them more.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's such a powerful motivator too, because I love when I first asked you the question, you're like, there's not really a difference, right? This is kind of who I am. This is what we stand for. So one, you have that authenticity that really kind of shines through. But just as an individual, I can speak to how empowering it is for someone to understand me and what's important to me alongside the mission at hand. So I think that's absolutely killer. Now, in your business, can you think of, maybe like one or two individuals where you've kind of applied this, right? Where you've come to understand their personal goals and you've helped them reach those and kind of what that's looked like for them, and really just kind of what their journey has been. I know that's also kind of a loaded question, but just anybody that you can think of where this is like just really made the individual flourish.
Well, it's somebody comes to mind, like right off the top of my head. And so this individual's been with me for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And she worked in one of the locations for 7, 8 years or so, long time. And then she chose to leave to go rent a space. And a year later, and I knew that she would be back. I called her like after 6 months. I said, just FYI, I'm waiting for you. Okay. Cause I know
Right.
that like, I just want you to know mama's waiting at home for you to like make the right decision. Right. She came back after a year, which I knew she would. So she's been with us now again for, I think in total, she's probably been with us for like 14 years probably.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And she is a hair cutter. So in our salon, we're specialized. So we have our cutting department and our color department. And she's booked, just packed, booked. The clients love her. She's joy. I don't hire people back that are not joy. So she's just a mountain of joy. And she is a super high producer. She's in our 100G club. She's, she does all the things. But the beginning of this last year, I started actually mid-year. When did I start it? May. I started in April. I started a coaching club for our elite performers because I feel like, and you and I talked about this the other week, the longer that somebody is with us, sometimes the people that are not squeaky wheels don't get the attention they need until they give you their notice because they're searching around for their next biggest thing. Mm-hmm. And then all hell breaks loose, right? Because it's like, oh my God, my biggest producer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, they haven't gotten any attention because we're busy growing these other people, which I think we'll get to in a little bit, talking about the different levels that we need to wrap our mind around on how to create different programs for different levels in our salon. But this individual high producer, and so I started this elite club, a coaching club, and the prerequisite to come into the club, this coaching club, is you have to be hitting in your service dollar 6 figures a year, not take home, but you're producing.
Right.
And my goal is to get them to actually take home 6 figures. And a lot of them do, but I'm calling it the 200G coaching club. So my goal is to get them to 200G. So they're taking home well over 100 grand a year. Now, they could have just made it into the 100G club. They could have been at 125, 150, whatever. But this one gal that's in there. So I have 7 people only out of my whole team in this group. And usually the majority of our coaching goes to our newer staff. We always think like our senior team, they've got it. They know what they need to do, right. But it doesn't matter that they know what they need to do. They need a cheerleader in their corner, right? So, so this individual was not, even though we have a culture of tracking, she was very flippant about her tracking and she made good money. And so she was just kind of, here or there. Her right. numbers were a little bit kind of wonky. So this coaching club, they have to submit their numbers to me every single week in a group. We're in a group. They submit it to the group and then they have to write what their reflection is about the previous week and what they're focusing on the week coming up. And the sheet that they submit is a month. It's 5 weeks on the sheet and it's a month. So they could see how they're doing every single week with their service per service ticket, how many clients they did, what their service and retail dollars were, their pre-booking, their add-on services, their retail per client ticket and percentage of guest purchasing. So there's a lot of benchmarks on there, but if they want to get to the next level, they're already doing great, right? Because they're already hitting over 100G. Right. But so if they want to do extraordinary, they have to do extraordinary things. They have to do things that they're just not used to doing. And so we have to find with these people, because they're already doing great work, like where is the niche, the crack that I could find that you're not paying attention to jump you up to the next level. So this gal has been tracking now all of May, all of June, and it's trending over 20% increase in these 2 months over the previous year. And she's already booked solid.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so it's such a reminder that everybody, no matter what level they are, they need specific things. And we have to target our efforts towards specific individuals or specific groups of people. So I have 7 people, and out of the 7, 6 people are thriving out of that group, because we're finding the crack that we may not see just because they're such high producers, but there's areas for them to personally grow. And I think it's really important to say that if our senior team cannot see a path for growth, cannot see a path to dramatically increase their revenue, they will look somewhere else. And sometimes it's not about the money. It's about, I need my own stimulation. So if they're not getting stimulated even and being pushed, I think it's a scary proposition. And I'm saying this from 31 years of being in business. And I've seen top people leave that has been heartbreaking to me. And time again, I think we have to step up and really learn from our experience as leaders of where our gaps are, where are our cracks. Even if we're a great leader, we have cracks too, right? And so that was one of them, is really specifying the message for specific groups.
Yeah. I really love personally how you have this approach for anybody in your salon, right? Even yourself, even as a leader, you take a step back and you say, okay, this is what I need to reflect on. Yeah. But you said something that I couldn't agree with more, that, when you have these very high producers, at some point it can be very easy to kind of assume that they've got it together. They know what they're doing, right? But I love how much attention they get, because you're absolutely correct, right? If your top producers cannot continue to grow, if there's no, elevation, right? Other people will see that too. So I think that's brilliant. Mm-hmm. Now, you touched on the different levels and the different kind of groups that you have. So I would love it if you could expand on those and kind of what those are and what those mean in salon.
Well, this is like a little bit of a new concept for me. And I wish it wasn't after 31 years. Like, I wish I didn't have to say that it's a new concept for me, that I thought of it 20 years ago. But I think we all know, no matter what level we are, if we're at very beginning in our journey and ownership or leadership, or if we're 20, 30 years in, like you still want to have aha moments, so that you keep growing and you don't feel burnt out. But so this past year, it dawned on me that I need to categorize my team. And when I say different levels, I don't mean like designer, senior designer, master designer. What I mean is like grouped in levels of how long they've been with us in employment. So like, this is how I work it in my mind. Our level 1 people have been with us a year or less. They need totally different mentoring than somebody that's been with me even 3 years or 5 years, and way different than somebody that's been with me 10 years or 15 or 17 years. Right? So group 1, like let's say level 1 would be maybe year 1, right? Year 1, maybe 1.5 to 2. Next group, and people can group them however they feel like is going to work for them. Group 2 would be like year 1 to 2, maybe to 5.
Okay.
And then we have like year 5 to 6 and up. So we have like 3 groups, right? And in each group, there's different layers of what kind of education they need. Like, for me to have some really popular Insta famous person come in and do education might be great for my senior team, but might not be good for my junior team, even though they might feel inspired by it. How are they going to even utilize that? So inside each group, we're now looking at what different layers and levels does each group need. And I'll give you an example just so that
Okay.
you can, like, we can kind of talk about like a real life example. So level one, like our newer people, we have an associate or an assistant program. We've had that forever. So they come in, they go through their education training, they're assisting as they go. But one thing that we found, and this came up from one of my team members that said, you know, we need to have a like a mentorship program to mentor them, because I feel like, she said, as a stylist, they're getting lost like in the mix. So they don't have like big brother, big sister, even though they have all of us, we're so busy. And if they need something or they're having a hard time, are they just going to quit? Right? Because we also noticed that our retention was highest with the new people coming in. Our lack of retention, our turnover was the highest with our new people coming in. So then how do you continue to grow these people up to the higher levels where they're really producing? Because if we're losing them after a year or 2 years, we're losing so much money with regard to all the education we put in them, all the time to train them. The efforts are lost. So last year, we created an entire 6-month mentorship program, and we had volunteers from our staff to say, who wants to be a mentor? They went through mentor training, and every single month we created a mentorship book, a booklet, Kinko's, nothing like a book. We didn't write a book, but, and it's nothing like fancy. I did it on my Keynote, and I made 6 different sheets. And each sheet was a checkoff sheet of what the mentor needs to go over with their associate.
Yeah.
So they have to take them out to lunch. We give them a little, like a $25 gift card or whatever to go to lunch, go to coffee. They're kind of going over and reviewing what they're learning, even in education, how they're doing, reviewing products with them. And they get bonused out, the mentors, after 3 months. And then after the 6th month, they get bonused on that. So like, that would be an example of a layer in that level one that was not being addressed because there was an issue there with retention. Yeah. And so now that we've instituted that, the new kids feel more attached to the staff as opposed to feeling intimidated by a senior person and like, oh, I don't know if I want to go talk to them. Well, that senior and master person is now their mentor.
Right.
So it scoops them in like a warm hug kind of a way. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like our level 3, just as an example, we have the coaching club.
Right.
So I'm about to launch another coaching club for my level 2 people. So I'm really kind of going in to see what they need. And I just find this really interesting too, that we had a focus group with our leadership team about 2 months ago. And our leadership team, for our focus groups, we call it like a leadership retreat. They come together. They're all of our mentors are invited. Our education directors are invited. All of our managers are invited. And then Carla and myself. And we had it at my house. We have it catered, and they come in for the day, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
And we drill them. We ask them, what do we not see? What are we not seeing? You know, and one of the things that the feedback we got is at our big team meetings, they didn't even know that my mindset was working on these levels. They didn't even know that. We're just doing things in that. I didn't launch it as some program, but it's interesting the feedback that we got of what they felt we needed at our big team meetings to break it out into levels. So I had people talking about that, even that they felt that was something that we needed. So it felt like, okay, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, I love to, now is every level that you have and kind of how you're categorizing, is it all based on like a length of time that they would be with you, or do you kind of shuffle it up at all in a different manner?
I think that people that are in the industry at specific lengths of time need different things. So even if they're new to us, but they came in as a master, they came in as, you know, they tested in and they're like moved from a different city or whatever, they're not going to really need what my new kids need. So it's really like, it's really length of time in the industry, I would say. Yeah.
And I like that too, because I feel like regardless of who you are, right, what your skill level is, you know, how long you've been in the industry, a length of time is that's a benchmark that anybody can look at and say, okay, you know what I mean? I'm going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's killer. And I think it's really cool to, it almost sounds like a no-brainer saying it back, right? That you have these different kind of groups of individuals and they all get the same level of attention, just in different manners, right? Because they're
Yes.
of, and it sounds like such a no-brainer saying it back seriously, but you know, you're the one doing it, right? And you're killing it. So it's awesome. I really want to kind of, I guess this is going to be kind of like a broad question too, so my
Okay.
apologies. But I
Okay.
would like to ask you, really, for anybody who's in a position of leadership or who may find themselves in a position of leadership, who maybe wants to understand their staff and kind of motivate them and empower them in the way that you have, but they're not quite there. Or, you know, some of these things that you've kind of mentioned that you look for, they're not really tracking those numbers right now. Let's say somebody who wants to work towards that style of leadership, where would you really tell them to begin?
I think that my no-brainer in my mind would go
Mm-hmm.
to, first off, do you have a mission statement and do you have core
Yeah.
values? Like that to me is like, you have to have something to coach to,
Right.
right? So like if I
Yeah.
don't have any core values or a mission, then how am I even coaching my team? Am I saying, well, I really want you to do this just because I feel like that today?
It's just you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or is it, this is who we are as a company, no matter how I feel today, and these are the protocols, right, that we put in place. So I think first and foremost is, do I have a mission and do I have core values? And I've heard this a million times as an educator. How many people in the room have a mission statement? Everybody raises their hand, right? And then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to have, how many, keep your hand up if you know what that mission statement is. Everyone's
Yeah.
hands go down, but maybe one person. So it's not enough to have one. It's, are you living it? Does your staff know what the mission statement is? Like my team pretty much, unless they're super, super new, would be able to recite our core values and what our mission statement is. So that to me is step one. And then when you want to institute something new, like, well, we've never done tracking before and we're going to do benchmarks before. Like for us, one of our core values is growth. And
Yeah.
when we talk about our core values, it has to ring true in three different ways. It has to be growth for my stylist, growth for the client, that they're growing and changing, right? And growth for the company. So it's always like everything in my mind needs to be a triple win. So it's always that way. So even like our another core value we have is education. Are my
Yep.
team, is education a core value of my company? 100%. Is education a core value that we have to educate our clients? 100%. So it always has to be this triple win, right? So when then you want to launch something new like benchmarks or key performance indicators or whatever you want to call them, goals,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Sure.
then you have a reason. You could say growth is one of our core values. And because it's one of our core values, as you all know, we want to continue to be moving forward. Nobody wants to be stagnant. So we're going to institute this program to help people escalate and grow to the next level. So you can use those core values or that mission statement in ways to, like, you signed up for a company that has these specific core values. And so now here we go. This is the track we're on. And I would also say that if you want to start elevating your culture and to you what that would mean, it was going to mean something different to everybody because everyone's in a different place in their business. It might be, I'm going to take a closer look at my numbers, or I'm going to institute a coaching program to make sure that I'm meeting with my teams frequently, or I'm going to start a morning connection or a morning huddle, or whatever it's going to be. I think, and this is just my humble opinion, I'm not here to tell people that my way is the best way. I'm here to say, consider this. You know, I'm always
Mm-hmm.
like, well, consider this, you know, this may or may not work for you. It would be to know your business inside and out.
Right.
Because until you know your business inside and out, and we go over this specifically in our 7 Steps to Salon Profit, it's our online course. it starts in like kindergarten and then works you up in the 7 different modules, teaching where should I be for my benchmarks? Like where are the top 10% operating? Where should I be? Because some people don't even know, like they know what their numbers are, but they don't even know where they should be to create a profit for themselves.
Right.
The profit margin, the average profit margin for employment-based salons is less than 3% across the country. And so that's with an owner as a technician. So that is like, to me, if I was operating like that, I would feel like I'm held hostage to have to do so many services, to not even have the energy to work on my business. So I think learning where your business needs to be profitable, and then you can start instituting different programs. But to institute a program when you don't know where your business is could be a waste of time, energy, and breath, because that might not give you the biggest bang for your buck. So I think it's important to know everything about your business, know how to read your profit and loss, know where you are with respect to your benchmarks, know which ones are high and low and where they should be, so that then you can start developing programs where you have a crack or a lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start focusing on the low-hanging fruit first, that helps to drive your services and your income and lower your expenses, because that's the name of the game with profit, right? You just need to increase the revenue, decrease your expenses, and you can start carving out that profitability. So it's knowing your business would be the short answer, but I had to get all that other stuff in because it's so layered.
Well, I almost feel too, like when I heard the question back and you started to answer it, that it's almost contradictory to kind of what I asked, because we've talked about how every single group deserves a separate approach, and leadership is no exception to that rule. So I'm almost inclined to ask, for those individuals who kind of aren't really sure where to start, would you suggest some kind of like leadership program, or getting into some kind of like, personal coaching, just to take that next step? Because it sounds like it's just so to the individual. There's no way to really kind of give a blanket answer, because every single person is going to be very different in their approach and what they need specifically at that time,
Yeah. So that's a great question. And of course, I'm going to say my 7 Steps to Salon Profit course is the course to take if you really want to know more about your business. So if I have a client call me that wants coaching, as an example, and they don't know a lot about the financials, the benchmarks, and all these things, I would send them through that program first, and then say, call me or reach back out to me, and then we'll do coaching, so I can layer on top of that, and we can start diving into culture and leadership styles.
Right.
If you already are like, I know how to read my profit and loss, I know what my benchmarks are, I'm having issues in my company, I'm having a hard time growing, my people, I'm having a hard time with my morale, call me. Right? That would be coaching sessions. And so I have a client that just reached out to me last month. She's opening a brand new salon up in LA. And I said to her, hey, I think you should start with the 7 steps, because it's basics around just like learning about the P&L, learning about the benchmarks. And then it steps into different behaviors that drive your benchmarks. And then once you want to launch something, it goes into how to launch it to get an engaged team. And she said, no, I just want you to teach me. Right. And so I'm like, okay, I will teach you. It's going to be a lot more expensive if I teach you one-on-one, because it's already there in like a built-in like online program. But so it just depends on the individual. Some people are better with one-on-one, and I'm happy to do that. But for the majority, I would just say an online program like that to get your foundation. Like, okay, I understand when I'm looking at things, I know what I'm looking at. I get it. And now I want to take it to the next level, and maybe I need a little extra support.
Right. I understand. Yeah. So it's basically like saying, look inward, right? Understand your own core values, your own mission statement, right? What applies to you. And then, and only then, really can you be well enough equipped to kind of guide your business in the right direction.
Yeah. Because like, otherwise, what are the guideposts?
Right.
Well, I mean, how do you know if something falls off track if you can't say, are we lined up with who we say we are? Like even at our team meetings, we call them salon celebrations. We have them every 6 weeks for the whole company. We start off with the mission. We play games that incorporate the mission. We have quizzes on core values and what they mean. We have posters in the back of our 10 cultural commandments. I mean, it's not just something that, in fact, in our businesses, when you walk in, you'll walk in, there'll be the retail area, and then separating the front from the back is a giant glass wall with our mission statement etched in it. I mean, that's how involved we are in this document, or in these words, I guess I'd say, and how they have guided us. Our mission statement, so many things have changed over 31 years, but our mission statement has never changed.
Stay the same. Well, you said something too in the very beginning of this call that I think just kind of goes to show and proves how powerful that is, right? Which is just that when you walk in, you just enjoy being there. You know what I mean? It's just magical. You can just kind of feel the love in the room. And I think everybody wants to find themselves in a room like that, whether they're, you know, there to have a service performed, or whether they're, you know, there to work. So I think it's magical.
And I've had it the other way. I've walked in before and said, like, I don't even know if I like these people. You know, I've had, I mean, over 31 years, you know, I've had cultures that have gone awry. I mean, it hasn't always been like out of the gate, like a cannon out of the gate, that it just like keeps going. I mean, we've had years that have just felt like hell. And it's just like, how am I going to get out of this? So, you know, I've been on the other side of it, and it does not feel good. So every conversation you choose to have or not have creates the very culture that you're looking at right now.
I love that. I'm going to remember that, I think, probably forever, every conversation you have, but also don't have, you know, that's,
yes.
I think pretty much everything we've talked about, it sounds like a no-brainer, right? Hearing it out loud, but it's just really cool because I don't know how, you know, where that is implemented all the time, but you've done it. And it's really awesome to kind of hear you speak to it. So, of course. Thank you. Awesome. Well, anybody who has any questions, you guys are more than welcome to kind of go ahead and throw those into the chat. Carrie, you are just the coolest person ever. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I love being here with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, when we first started, I was like, I could do this every week. So, but you're awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and seriously, just kind of like lighting up our little virtual room, so to speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Awesome. All right. Well, for anybody who's still tuned into us, we will have a recording of this to distribute to you guys. Also, for anybody who signs on from watching this meeting, you guys will have our VIP onboarding, you know, as well as a free month, assuming that you sign on with us. And this month only, there will also be an iPad included in that. So you guys definitely get on top of that.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for spending time today too.